Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Justice League number 8. Finally, we're getting a little bit of explanation. Scott Snyder has kept his promise. He did say that we'd get a little bit more explanation in this issue. It is written by James Tynion the fourth, and that's probably a good thing because my understanding is that James Tynion is a little bit more wordy, and he's going to explain things a little bit better. I think Professor Bill at Comic Book University mentioned that he'd spoken with Tynion at a comic convention, and apparently that's what was stated. I just want to confirm here. It's another one of these issues where they can't make up their goddamn minds, where they want to write all the credits. So we got to, randomly writer James Tynion the fourth, art and cover Michael Jenin. Finally, we got some fantastic art here. We had to wait 8 issues for it, but this is the way the art should be. I wish if every issue so far was this artistically beautiful, it would have been a much better experience. Although it probably wouldn't have been a better, frankly, it wouldn't have been explained better. But we got some explanation here. So where are we exactly? Well, Scott Snyder made it very clear that in the first 7 issues he was going to throw a bunch of stuff at us and sort of overwhelm our senses a little bit, and then take a break and sort of take a collective breath and sort of like recap in terms of what's going on. And that's sort of what this is. This last issue ended with Lex Luthor confronting the Batman Who Laughs, and the Batman Who Laughs is actually held captive by the Legion of Doom at the bottom of their Legion of Doom headquarters. And basically Lex Luthor has a conversation with the Batman Who Laughs, and the Batman Who Laughs, who obviously remembers lots of things about Lex Luthor from his own universe, because just to be very clear, just imagine that all the interactions that have happened between Bruce Wayne and Batman and Lex Luthor in our universe, in the mainstream DC universe, the Batman Who Laughs remembers all those things because similar things happen in his universe, and so he basically has had the same sort of recollection as I guess the Batman, our Batman, or the mainstream DC universe Batman. And so he really gets into Lex Luthor's head, and he called it. He knew Luthor eventually was going to be coming to him for answers, and that ultimately they were going to reach a roadblock. And so, just cutting to the chase here, guys. What's good about here is that we learn a few things more. That namely that we have the Still Force, we've got the Ultraviolet Core, and we still have these 5 other forces that are out there, and the Justice League now has the totality. The totality itself that came to Earth. The Justice League has it, but they don't really know what the hell it is, and they don't really know what it embodies exactly. But they know that it's probably better in their hands than it is in the Legion of Doom's hands, which is a very good thing to assume. Now, the Batman Who Laughs explains to Lex Luthor that apparently there is this woman who's trapped inside the totality. And at the end, on the very last page, you see a little female figure that's trapped inside the totality that is now at the Hall of Justice. Meanwhile, the Batman Who Laughs is being interrogated by Lex Luthor at the Legion of Doom headquarters. Now, Perpetua was actually a woman that the Source Wall was created to contain. Because the Batman Who Laughs says to Luthor, look, this isn't that, you got to think about what the Source Wall was created, like who it was created to keep at bay. Because this Perpetua woman, and I think that's a cool name, and I'll get to why in a minute. This woman named Perpetua, she was the one person that could harness all of these 7 forces, these 7 powers, the Still Force, the Ultraviolet Core Force, and these other forces that we're unaware of, and we're eventually going to discover. Now this Perpetua, this woman, is still trapped in the totality. So really that's all that we were told here. Now, how we weren't so some of the answers, we weren't really told how the Still Force works. We weren't really told how the Ultraviolet Core, I guess we kind of know how the Ultraviolet Core works. It works on negative emotions. How the Still Force works, what exactly it is. How is it different other than just being motionless? Still unclear there. So unfortunately, I think it's quite clear we're never going to get really good answers to those things, because these are all going to be like ephemeral sort of philosophical concepts that unfortunately aren't going to really have they're not going to be as cool as the Infinity Stones, guys. They're just not. They're not going to be as cool because they're based on just concepts that don't really make a lot of sense, other than just being the opposite of other forces. So that's really, really unfortunate. And the other thing that's maybe interesting is we get Starman. Starman gets a new origin here, which I think is pretty cool. And now what happened is, apparently, and this is a little bit contradictory too, we had a flashback to 1988, the year 1988, where apparently the totality came to Earth in 1988, which completely contradicts what we've been told. The totality came to Earth in issue 1. It didn't come to Earth in 1988. The source wall wasn't broken in 1988. The source wall was just recently broken, and the totality was released from the source wall. So the source wall could not have come to Earth in 1988. That doesn't make any sense to me. Unless, of course, the totality, when the source wall was broken, all of time was broken, and then the totality, bits and pieces of the totality maybe traveled in different parts of time. Because maybe a part of it also went back in time, and that's how Vandal Savage became aware of it back in the Stone Age. So I'm still confused. Again, contrary to what Scott Steiner says, guess what? James Tynion doesn't adequately explain that. But for whatever reason, we have the totality coming to Earth in 1988, and Lex Luthor, along with his father, although it doesn't Lionel Luthor's name is mentioned, the totality comes to Earth, and Lex Luthor tries to contain it, or Luthor Industries tries to contain the energy with one of its satellites, but it gets overwhelmed. It's so much, they use the analogy, it's sort of like a calculator trying to hold all the knowledge of a supercomputer. It can't do it. And so when the totality overwhelms the satellite almost sort of explodes into a beam of light toward the Earth, and it hits this individual, changing this individual into Starman. And that's how Starman gained all his powers. And it was Lex Luthor then has been performing, apparently since 1988, experiments on Starman to try to, that's how he tried to get more information about the seven forces, because the Starman sort of embodied aspects of the seven forces. I think that's what I'm getting out of this. Lex Luthor confronts Starman in 1988 and says, "Mr. Payton, I presume," that's Starman's name, Mr. Payton. "My name is Lex Luthor. I have a few questions for you about the end of the universe." And apparently then, after Lex Luthor ran these experiments on Starman, he erased Starman's memory, so Starman had no memory of that. And doesn't make a lot of sense, because then why did Luthor become a good guy then if he became aware of the totality back in 1988? That doesn't make sense from a continuity point of view. Why didn't Lex Luthor do all this stuff with the doorknob back in 1988? I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. There's a scene here as well that adds further confusion to it. Apparently Lionel, the scientists raced to save what little information their satellite managed to glean from the target. And then the one guy says, "Lionel, there's a problem." So it looks like in 1988, Lionel Luthor was trying to get that information. But then right after, at the same time, Lex Luthor in 1988 is getting Starman. So I don't know. I don't get it. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So Lionel and Lex, I thought Lionel never told Lex about that. They're sort of jumping all over the place here. I'm trying to make sense of this. This was very poorly structured. The art's really great. Michael Jannon's art's great, but they did a really bad job sort of showing how this is supposed to go continuity-wise. So I'm guessing, and I'm just guessing, that it was in 1988 that Lionel tried to contain the totality, which doesn't make any sense because it shouldn't have existed back then. The source wall was up. But in 1988, apparently Lionel tried to contain the totality. It got shot into the totality's energy, a portion of it got shot into Starman. And then I'm assuming that maybe it was years later that Lex Luthor try to, attack Starman to gain some knowledge of the 7 forces from Starman by experimenting on Starman. Again, not very clear. Could be a lot better. Maybe you guys could explain to me what you're getting out of it. We then get into the conversation between Lex Luthor and the Batman Who Laughs. And again, interesting conversation that reveals that there's this woman named Perpetua who's trapped in the Source Wall, or was trapped in the Source Wall, but when the Source Wall broke down, she became part of the totality. She's now trapped in the totality, trying to escape. But the members of the Justice League, they've got the totality contained, but they don't know that there's a woman named Perpetua trapped inside it. Lex Luthor knows that now, so he has one up on the Justice League in terms of knowing that. Meanwhile, we get some action there. The Cheetah and the Black Manta, they take out Poseidon. Now, for some reason, Lex Luthor gave the Cheetah something called the Tear of Extinction. The Tear of Extinction. The Tear of Extinction. As in, like, when you shed a tear. At first, I thought it was a tear that when you... Well, maybe it is a tear. Tear. The Tear of Extinction. Anything she tears, she'll kill. So she can even kill a god because she's... So when she slices Poseidon's throat, Poseidon, the god of the seas, he realizes that he can't even heal. And he's dying, and he basically dies, and she wants Poseidon to release what he's kept trapped inside all these millennia. Of course, what does Poseidon have trapped inside all these millennia? I don't know. Again, why would you want to be mysterious about this? All Poseidon says, well, he implies that if I release it, or if you release it, it's going to flood the earth. And, of course, Cheetah and Black Manta don't seem to care. And so that's interesting. So I'm not sure if this Tear of Extinction is one of the 7 powers or not. I'm assuming it is, so maybe we got a third one revealed. Again, for so-called clarity of this issue, it really didn't clear much up. A lot of this stuff I inferred from previous issues. This didn't really add a lot of clarity. This was it added an interesting conversation between two narcissists. The Batman Who Laughs and Lex Luthor, but it really didn't reveal much other than the fact that the Batman Who Laughs was just bragging about how much he knew, and he mentions Perpetua. That was really it. But anyway, it's okay. It's okay. I'm still meh. It's still meh to me. Because here's the thing: if you're gonna have 5 or 6 issues where you confuse the readers, and then have an issue like this that you think explains the previous issues, but you're wrong, because this does a half-ass job. I give this I gotta say, for the art here, I give the art an 8, and a story, I gotta give this a 6. Again, adequate, mediocre. It's all right. I'm still meh. I don't really know where it's going. I don't care. Why should I care about Perpetua? Why do I care if she's got access to 7 forces when I don't know what the 7 forces are, other than 2, maybe 3? And knowing that you got 50 issues on this title, why would I? It's just, this whole structure and setup is just not really exciting to me. But guys, maybe you disagree. Tell me what you feel. Until next time. Actually, you know what? The best part of this whole thing is that I got to wear my Aquaman shirt, my Aquaman cap, and everything else. Aquaman, he's on the cover. I don't know why this cover doesn't exist in the actual comic book, and yeah, what the hell? One final criticism, because there's a lot here, and I'm holding back. This doesn't appear in the comic book, and it's unfortunate. Very little action actually takes place in the comic book, and it'd be nice if this scene actually took place in the comic book. Also, the Batman Who Laughs does not join the Legion of Doom. He does not join the Legion of Doom. I don't know, people that read that, people imply that's not what happened. The Batman Who Laughs does not join the Legion of Doom. The deal was, Luthor, you let me go and I'll just tell you, I'll tell you about the secret. The secret was Perpetua trapped in the totality. That's it. Now, the Batman Who Laughs is released and he can do his own thing. He's not a member of the Legion of Doom. So, again, false advertising, doesn't happen in the comic book, and doesn't really explain as much as it should. Anyways, guys, underwhelmed to say the least. Until next time, Comic Boom out.